Ever feel like you're drowning in your own thoughts, talking too much, yet saying nothing that matters? In a world that rewards loud opinions and fast reactions, have you ever wondered if silence could be the real strength? What if your power wasn't in doing more, but in mastering less? It's not what happens to you that truly hurts, it's how you respond that shapes your life. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus knew this truth centuries ago, and today it matters more than ever. Let me ask you, has your mind ever felt like it's racing in circles? You're overthinking, talking more than you intended, reacting to every small thing, and still feeling like you're not in control. We're living in a world overloaded with noise, where snapping back is seen as being smart and posting fast opinions is praised like courage. But the truth, many men are silently falling apart. They're exhausted, scattered, numb to their own purpose, disconnected from their inner core. But the ancient Stoics figured it out. Real strength isn't about being louder or busier, it's about being clear and intentional. It's not about reacting fast, it's about pausing with purpose. Not about thinking endlessly, but directing your thoughts like a calm river flowing towards something meaningful. In this video, you'll learn how Stoic philosophy for men can help you regain clarity, toughen your mental focus, and speak without saying a word. You'll discover how to master your inner dialogue, respond instead of react, and build a presence that demands respect even in silence. You're not alone. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by distractions, like life is just happening to you, but today could be the moment you begin reclaiming your power. Because once you stop overthinking, stop overtalking, and begin living with intention, the world no longer owns you. You own it, so stay with me. Like this video, subscribe, and ring that bell. What you'll learn in the next few minutes could shift how you carry yourself without needing to say a word. Section 1. Thought Mastery. Here's the first truth. Your thoughts are not facts. One simple thought, I'm not good enough, or it's too late for me, can ruin your whole day. It creeps in quietly, like a shadow under the door. Before you know it, you're living like those words are gospel, but they're not. Epictetus once said, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Yet how many of us live as if every passing thought is the ultimate truth? Imagine you're standing at a train station. Every thought is a train pulling in, some full of fear, others loaded with regret, others anger. But here's the Stoic secret. You don't have to board any of them. You can stay right there on the platform. Watch them pass. Breathe. Remain still. That's the power of mental detachment. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. This daily Stoic practice, simply observing your thoughts without reacting, is one of the most powerful skills you can build. Because when you get tangled in your thoughts, they control you. But when you step back and observe, they lose their power. They fade. I remember a late-night conversation with a respected team leader. Everyone admired his calm presence, but he confided in me. Every morning, he woke up with a knot in his gut, not because of external pressure, but because of his own inner critic. The voice whispered, "You're not enough. You're messing it all up." And for years, he believed it. Instead of thinking, "I'm screwing everything up," he began to say to himself, "I'm having the thought that I'm screwing everything up." That small shift in wording created a massive distance. Suddenly, it wasn't him failing anymore, it was just a passing thought, like a cloud, like smoke. And if you don't fuel the fire, the smoke will clear on its own. This isn't about denying your thoughts or forcing yourself into blind positivity. That's just another way of dodging reality. The truth is, your mind generates thoughts on autopilot. Not all of them are useful. Many are leftovers from the past, hand-me-down fears, raw emotional reactions, and you are not those thoughts. You are the space in which they appear. You're the one who chooses which thoughts to feed and which ones to release. That's where Stoic practice begins. Awareness. You don't need a cabin in the woods or a week-long meditation retreat. Just a few minutes a day to pause and notice. When a thought stings, don't react. Don't push it away. Don't cling to it. Simply watch it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have proof? Does this make me stronger or weaker? If it doesn't serve you, let it go. Not with anger, but with calm. Like dropping a heavy stone you no longer need to carry. Bit by bit, you carve out inner space. And in that space, something no thought can imitate starts to appear. Clarity.com, steady strength. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's the daily act of returning again and again to the present moment, to the platform, to yourself. The Stoics never aimed to stop thinking. They aimed to tame thought. They knew that an untamed mind is like a wild horse, drags you in directions you don't want to go. But a trained mind becomes your ally. It lights your path. And most importantly, it lets you walk it freely. So the next time a voice inside says, "You can't, you're not enough," it's too late. Pause, breathe. Don't board that train. Stay with yourself, because you are not your thoughts. What you do with them, that's what defines you. That's real strength, quiet, internal, and unshakable. The Stoics didn't just live by reason, they lived with virtue. And part of that virtue is not saying more than you need to. They measured their words like a fighter measures his punches, because one extra word can cut deeper than you intended, and a well-timed pause can diffuse an emotional bomb waiting to explode. Think back to the last time you spoke on impulse. Maybe it was a jab, a defensive comment, or an opinion that didn't really need to be shared. Was it worth it? Or did it leave you feeling hollow, patching the silence afterward with regret? Silence, on the other hand, doesn't carry that weight. It never needs to be undone. It buys you time. It gives you space. It puts the reins of control back in your hands. Saying less also makes you more present. It forces you to really listen, not to strike back, not to win, but to understand. And then something unexpected happens. The other person lowers their guard. They feel you're not fighting, you're paying attention. And you change, too. When you stop rushing to speak, your mind clears. Your words shift. From reaction to intention. Epictetus taught that we should first master our impulses, then our words. Because there's no greater freedom than not needing to explain yourself. That kind of freedom isn't loud. It's in your breath, in your steady gaze, in the calm you carry when you choose to stay silent, and when you could easily dominate the moment with a clever retort. Saying less isn't just a cool demeanor. It's a philosophy, a reminder that self-control begins with your tongue. Real respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And in a world drowning in noise, a man who has mastered silence becomes a presence that doesn't need an introduction. So, next time you feel the urge to speak up, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it useful? Does it align with the man I want to be? If the answer is no, keep your words. Because sometimes the greatest strength is saying nothing at all. And in that silent space, you become stronger, clearer, and more you. Marcus Aurelius emperor who could command armies still wrote to remind himself, happiness doesn't come from outside. It comes from the quality of your thoughts. He couldn't command fate, but he could command his response. He didn't whine, he didn't quit. He simply stood steady in his core, even while the world spun in chaos around him. Controlling what you can doesn't mean making life perfect. It means you take the helm even in the storm. When everything shakes, you choose what stays steady within you. Your calm, your purpose, your deliberate action. It means you live from your roots, not your reactions. If you ever feel like you've lost your way, pause, breathe, take a hard look at what you're trying to control, and let go of what's not yours. Then pour every ounce of your energy into what you can move, no matter how small it seems. Because when you choose with clarity where to place your strength, every action becomes sharper, stronger, and entirely yours. That's what keeps a man from breaking even when his world collapses. Not luck, not easy circumstances, but the relentless choice to return to what truly matters. Because real transformation doesn't start out there. It doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins right now in what you choose to think, how you choose to respond, and who you choose to become, even when no one else has a say. Next, principle 4. Focus on what helps you grow. Maybe you've been there, a conversation ends, but you keep replaying it for days. A mistake from months ago still keeps you awake at night. Someone hurt you, and even though they're long gone, the wound still stings. Not because of what happened, but because you keep feeding it. Your mind is like fertile soil. It grows whatever you plant. If you sow pain, guilt, or resentment, don't expect to harvest peace. The problem isn't remembering, it's getting stuck there, looping in that one moment, in that one thought. Like a broken record, sometimes without realizing it. You turn your mind into a prison and you're holding the key, but you're not doomed to stay trapped. Because your thoughts aren't a life sentence, they're a choice. This isn't about ignoring the past or pretending everything's okay. It's about redirecting your focus again and again to what builds you, what makes you stronger. A man who keeps looking backward can't move forward. No matter how fast he runs, it doesn't matter how hard you try if your focus stays on what you can't change. Effort alone won't set you free. But when you choose to turn toward the light, something inside you opens. Not loudly, not instantly, but it does open. And that's where real growth begins. Marcus Aurelius, in quiet nights between wars, betrayal, and illness, wrote that the soul grows stronger by focusing only on what's essential and what life demands of you today. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. Because the present, flawed as it may be, is the only place you can act. Your attention is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. Every time you catch your wandering mind and bring it back to the now, you're training a silent muscle called self-discipline. Think of any day in your life. You've had thousands of thoughts, some light, some heavy, but only a few shaped your actions. Only a few drained your energy. The trick isn't to stop them, it's to stop feeding them. You need to come back to your breath, back to your body, back to what actually matters. I remember reading a comment under a Stoic video once. A guy wrote, "Every time I try to move forward, my mind drags me back to the same memory, to the same person who hurt me. And suddenly, I lose hours. Like, it's all still happening, and I got it." We've all been there. But here's the truth. The solution isn't to run away from that thought. It's to face it, acknowledge it, and then, with steady resolve, declare, You don't get any more space in my life today, even if just for the next hour, because that's what reclaiming your energy looks like. You redirect it into something that pulls you forward. The Stoics didn't preach about bottling things up. They taught us how to transform, to take the emotions that weigh us down and use them as signals, clues about what still needs to be released. And that transformation doesn't begin with drama. It begins with a quiet decision. Where will you place your attention? Each time you choose to focus on something that adds value, reading, training, building, improving, you send a clear message to yourself and to the world. I will not waste another day dwelling on what I can't change. You can't control every thought that pops into your head, but you can decide which ones stay. And that decision made again and again shapes your character, your direction, your strength. A strength that doesn't need to shout. It speaks. Through your posture, through your pace, through the calm, deliberate way you move through life, while others remain stuck in their own chaos. You keep going, because focus isn't a talent. It's a trained skill, and like any skill, it sharpens with repetition. So when your mind tries to drag you back to pain, to the past, to chaos, don't resist it. Don't chase it. Just breathe. Acknowledge the pull, and then come back to now, because where your attention goes, your life follows. Rule 5. Accept what is. If you're suffering because of something outside of you, remember this. The pain doesn't come from the thing itself. It comes from your perception of it. And you have the power to shift that perception. Marcus Aurelius wrote it best. Most men don't collapse from the weight they carry. They collapse from fighting it. We want life to be different. We want people to stop letting us down. We want the past to stop hurting. We want things to go as planned, but they didn't. And the harder we fight that truth, the more exhausted we become. The more we crack from the inside out. Because it's not the weight that breaks you, it's how you carry it. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not pretending. It's stopping the war against what's already happened. It's staring loss, failure, or betrayal in the face and saying, "You do not define me. You are not the foundation I'll build my life on." Because as long as you're clinging to what should have been, you're shackled to a fantasy. But when you finally accept, you exhale, and in that breath, something shifts. A new calm emerges. And from that stillness, you can begin again. A man once emailed me. He'd spent years chasing his father's approval, trying to be the perfect son, the successful professional, the tough guy. But it was never enough. Then his father died. The grief was crushing, but what haunted him even more was the weight he'd carried for years. The endless hunger to be seen, valued, accepted. Then he read Epictetus, and it clicked. Freedom begins when you stop begging for permission to be yourself. Because living for someone else's nod is still a prison, even if you don't see the chains. That day, he began speaking to himself with respect. Not because his father finally gave it to him, but because he finally decided he didn't need it anymore. The Stoics taught this too. You cannot control how the world sees you, but you can absolutely control how you see yourself. Everyone interprets life through their own pain, their own fears. So if someone shuts you out, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It means they couldn't see your worth, but you can, and you must. Because if you don't, no one else will. Acceptance also means releasing guilt, that voice inside that keeps replaying what you should have done, what you could have avoided, what you lost. But the past cannot be bargained with. Acceptance isn't an end, the beginning of something new. A beginning that doesn't start from zero, but from the strength and experience you've gained with every fall. You can't rewrite the past, but you can use it as raw material to rebuild. When you finally accept that something is over, you get to start again, not from nothing, but from experience, from the lessons you've earned. Resilience isn't just about enduring pain. It's about learning, growing, not with bitterness, but with intention. Not in panic, but with direction. Because every hit that doesn't break you reveals you. It shows you what you can hold and what you're ready to let go. And yes, loneliness often walks hand in hand with that growth. When you stop living for approval, some people will drift away. You no longer fit their mold. You're no longer easy to manage. But that's part of your freedom too. Being alone while being fully yourself is far better than being surrounded yet disconnected from who you truly are. If you're suffering because of something outside of you, remember this. The pain doesn't come from the thing itself. It comes from your perception of it. And you have the power to shift that perception. Marcus Aurelius wrote it best. Most men don't collapse from the weight they carry. They collapse from fighting it. We want life to be different. We want people to stop letting us down. We want the past to stop hurting. We want things to go as planned, but they didn't. And the harder we fight that truth, the more exhausted we become. The more we crack from the inside out. Because it's not the weight that breaks you, it's how you carry it. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not pretending. It's stopping the war against what's already happened. It's staring loss, failure, or betrayal in the face and saying, "You do not define me. You are not the foundation I'll build my life on." Because as long as you're clinging to what should have been, you're shackled to a fantasy. But when you finally accept, you exhale, and in that breath, something shifts. A new calm emerges. And from that stillness, you can begin again. A man once emailed me. He'd spent years chasing his father's approval, trying to be the perfect son, the successful professional, the tough guy, but it was never enough. Then his father died. The grief was crushing, but what haunted him even more was the weight he'd carried for years. The endless hunger to be seen, valued, accepted. Then he read Epictetus, and it clicked. Freedom begins when you stop begging for permission to be yourself. Because living for someone else's nod is still a prison, even if you don't see the chains. That day, he began speaking to himself with respect. Not because his father finally gave it to him, but because he finally decided he didn't need it anymore. The Stoics taught this too. You cannot control how the world sees you, but you can absolutely control how you see yourself. Everyone interprets life through their own pain, their own fears. So if someone shuts you out, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It means they couldn't see your worth, but you can, and you must. Because if you don't, no one else will. Acceptance also means releasing guilt, that voice inside that keeps replaying what you should have done, what you could have avoided, what you lost. But the past cannot be bargained with. Acceptance isn't an end, it's the beginning of something new. A beginning that doesn't start from zero, but from the strength and experience you've gained with every fall. You can't rewrite the past, but you can use it as raw material to rebuild. When you finally accept that something is over, you get to start again, not from nothing, but from experience, from the lessons you've earned. Resilience isn't just about enduring pain. It's about learning, growing, not with bitterness, but with intention. Not in panic, but with direction. Because every hit that doesn't break you reveals you. It shows you what you can hold and what you're ready to let go. And yes, loneliness often walks hand in hand with that growth. When you stop living for approval, some people will drift away. You no longer fit their mold. You're no longer easy to manage. But that's part of your freedom too. Being alone while being fully yourself is far better than being surrounded yet disconnected from who you truly are. Silence is not weakness. It's a sign of inner mastery, of mental clarity, of real power. Rule 7. Talk less, think more. Most men don't get into trouble because of what they didn't say. They get into trouble because of what they said without thinking. A word spit out in anger. An opinion thrown out carelessly. A reaction fired off on impulse. And that's where the real damage starts. Not always outside, but inside. Because every time you speak without awareness, you drift further from your center. In a world where everyone's scrambling to be heard, the man who knows when to be quiet stands out. Picture your mind like a blade. Every word you speak is a swing. If you don't train that blade, it'll cut you deeper than anyone else ever could. But if you learn when to swing, when to sheath it, when to sharpen it in silence, you become unshakable. Talking less doesn't make you worth less. It means you've got more direction, more discipline, more clarity. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every feeling needs to be expressed. Not every comment deserves your response. A man once messaged me after a family blow-up. He said he exploded over something small. But the truth was anger had been building for weeks. From words he hadn't said, from emotions he suppressed, from judgments he hurled like darts without realizing. And when it was over, he just felt empty. Because deep down, he knew those words weren't real. They were just echoes of an inner mess he hadn't taken time to confront. So he created a rule: pause before you answer. Even if it's just 2 seconds. Even if it feels like nothing. Those 2 seconds changed his life because they gave him space to choose, to reflect, to respond with intention. The Stoics leaned deeply into this idea. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them, and that interpretation usually forms before you speak." So the man who can master the tiny gap between trigger and reaction, he doesn't just win arguments. He shapes his character, his energy, his path. In a heated moment, silence is your sharpest defense. Not because you're out of ammo, but because you know not every battle deserves your fire. In a meaningful conversation, a pause can give your words more weight than shouting ever could. Because what's said without rush, without anxiety, without a need to win, lands differently. Speaking with intention is an art, and like any art, it takes practice, awareness, and courage not to be sucked into the noise. Today, we're flooded with urges to react, to post, to speak, to prove, but restraint is not suppression. It's the ability to choose where your words come from ego or from essence, from pain or from wisdom. You don't need to speak to be heard, and you don't need anyone's thumbs up to feel whole. That's the line between a man who reacts and a man who leads from within. You won't always control what you feel, but you can control how you express it. You can train yourself to observe your thoughts without letting them speak for you. You can practice the pause. Take a breath and wait for the right moment. Because the man who controls his words doesn't just communicate better, he respects himself more. And the man who respects himself naturally earns respect from others. So the next time you feel the urge to lash out, stop. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong. not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. Speaking less doesn't mean holding back. It means letting go of what doesn't need to be said. And in today's noisy world, that's a rare and quiet kind of power. You can be one of the few who has it. Real strength isn't about lifting heavier or shouting louder. It's forged in silence, in the moments you choose to think before reacting. In the days you commit to focusing on what you can control. Each time you speak with purpose, or stay silent with wisdom, you're building something steady inside. Today, we covered 3 pillars that redefine a strong man. Think less, speak less, focus more. This isn't a distant ideal. It's a daily practice, a way of living built through small, intentional choices, through each conscious breath, through every thought you observe without mistaking it for truth. Because when you understand that, your thoughts don't define you. Your silence is your strength, and your focus shapes your direction. Something shifts, not out there. In here, you stop needing to prove your worth to the world, because you carry it with you every day, because you remind yourself of it, because you've learned that peace, discipline, clarity aren't reserved for the lucky. They're skills you build, sharpen, and protect. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Use what you've got. Breathe, pause, choose. And if you ever feel yourself drifting, come back to this video. Let these words serve as a reminder. Your mind doesn't run you unless you let it. Your voice doesn't lose power just because you stay quiet. And your focus is still the most powerful tool you've got. If something here spoke to you, drop a comment below. Where in your life do you need more silence? What are you ready to let go of? Because your story might just help another man find his way back to himself too.